While watching a horror movie, the audience is expecting to see a plethora of violence, imaginative kills, a terrifying serial killer or monster, and a twist or two. But filmmakers tend to go the extra mile to keep the purists of the genre satisfied. The directors and writers may sneak in a few details that only the most observant can spot to ensure horror veterans are thoroughly entertained. Some of these moments are superfluous, like a nod to another movie, a visual gag, or a gratuitous cameo. Other times, these Easter eggs drastically expand the lore, foreshadow a twist, or offer great insight into the character's motivations. Every once in a while, you might catch a glaring mistake which can either ruin the scene or make it far more entertaining. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie for What Culture, and here are 10 horror moments nobody noticed on the first watch. Number 10, a literal Easter egg, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Since our list centers around Easter eggs, it would be criminal not to include the one that started it all, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now, nobody is going to pretend Jim Sharman's classic horror comedy invented cinematic Easter eggs. After all, hidden images and messages have been tucked away in films long before the 1975 musical was released. With that said, the Rocky Horror Picture Show is credited for coining or popularizing the term Easter egg in film. Stranger still, it was completely unintentional. In between filming, the film crew entertained themselves by scavenging for Easter eggs. Unfortunately, the crew members were too good at squirreling the eggs away, which resulted in a couple of them ending up in the final cut. Of course, the majority of these eggs are hard to spot, hence why the crew failed to find them. But while Riff Raff is sitting on Frankenfurter's throne, one of the sneaky eggs can be observed below his seat. Although it's been reported that 3 eggs can be seen throughout the Rocky Horror Picture Show, this is the one that stands out the most. Number 9, foreshadowed deaths, X. The first entry in Ty West's slasher trilogy follows a group of filmmakers who are terrorized by a murderous couple, Pearl and Howard. On a first viewing, every death seems to come out of nowhere, but while revisiting X, there were signs who was going to kick the bucket and how. After Wayne tells RJ that people's eyes are going to pop out of their skulls, it shouldn't have been a surprise when he gets a pitchfork rammed through his eye sockets. Bobby Lynn is eaten by an alligator, which is a callback to the scene where she walked in front of a mural of an alligator attacking a woman. Jackson mentions how he was held at gunpoint in Vietnam, so it's fitting when Howard blasts him to death with a shotgun. Howard mentions how he worries for his heart and is concerned for Pearl's hip. This foreshadows both their fates, since Howard dies of a heart attack and Pearl breaks her hip, allowing Maxine to kill her. Speaking of which, Pearl dies after Maxine crushes her head with a truck. Her fate was hinted at when the ensemble drove over a dead cow in the beginning. As surprising as these moments seemed, every death was laid out early on. Number 8, Peekaboo, Ju-on the Grudge. In this supernatural horror, a care worker called Rika is tasked with looking after a woman called Sachi, oblivious her house is haunted by vengeful spirits. Although The Grudge is filled with outlandishly shocking moments, it also harbours a few tactful scares. Throughout the story, it's explained that certain people are more attuned to the spirit world, allowing them to easily see ghosts. While Rika is at the care home, a wheelchair-bound patient called Sato can be observed in the background, seemingly playing peekaboo with himself. While Rika is pushing Sato in his wheelchair in a later scene, he once again plays peekaboo with thin air. At a glance, it appears as if the elderly man's behaviour is due to his age and addled mind. But in the next shot, an apparition of a boy can be spotted in the reflection of a glass door standing beside Sato. The door is shut immediately after, so the spirit's appearance is easy to miss. First-time viewers might think they imagined the boy since his reveal isn't built up, nor is it accompanied with a jump scare-inducing sound. Number 7, Android user, the Blackening. In Tim Story's dark satire, a relaxing weekend away is ruined for a group of friends when they discover they're being targeted by a mysterious serial killer. Rather than butchering them then and there, the elusive maniac forces the group to play a board game that focuses on African American culture. Though one of the characters, Clifton, is seemingly killed, he's later unveiled as the mastermind behind it all, exacting revenge on his so-called friends for constantly questioning his blackness. Of course, this twist was implied almost straight away when Clifton mentions he doesn't use an iPhone. As Rian Johnson pointed out while promoting Knives Out, Apple gave the director strict instructions not to depict villains using their products, which is a policy they've maintained for years. Of course, nobody should assume Clifton is the bad guy purely because he doesn't own an iPhone. However, Clifton draws attention to this rule when he emphasizes he uses an Android, detailing how it has a superior operating system than the iPhone. Anyone familiar with Apple's no iPhones for villains stance should have deduced Clifton was the killer then and there. Number 6. Evan gets an eyeful, Final Destination 2. Final Destination 2 kicks off with a college student called Kimberly having a premonition that the traffic jam she's in will result in a devastating pile-up. She stalls her vehicle, preventing her and the drivers behind her from getting involved in the horrific motor crash. Like in the last film, the Grim Reaper is ticked off that Kimberly's group cheated death. As such, the Reaper triggers a chain of fatal accidents on the survivors, hoping to collect their souls. One of the survivors from the previous movie, Clear Rivers, mentions that each victim will receive a warning just before death performs the deed. Although most of the survivors receive some sort of sign before meeting with a terrible fate, that doesn't seem to be the case with Evan. Seconds before his apartment goes up in flames, Evan escapes through the fire escape ladder. He trips moments before the ladder leg shoots down, caving in his eye socket. Despite how it looks, Evan was warned. While Evan is in his kitchen, the word "I" can be seen written on the front of the fridge, indicating what fate has in store for him. It would have been more helpful if the letters spout out something like, "A ladder is going to impale your face," but this warning was better than nothing. Number 5. A legendary cameo, Silence of the Lambs. Recognizing cameos in a horror movie can be a fun little game. Linda Blair in Scream, David Cronenberg in Jason X, Simon Pegg in Land of the Dead. What made these appearances extra special is the fact that each of their stars are famous for their work in the horror genre. Although these cameos are well known, Silence of the Lambs harbors a secret horror icon that nearly everybody misses. While Clarice Starling speaks to Hannibal Lecter at the courthouse, a bearded man arrives to have the deranged cannibal removed. Nothing seems out of the ordinary during this shot, which is why most people don't realize this gentleman is the zombie king himself, George A. Romero. Few people acknowledged him since the Night of the Living Dead director only appears for a few seconds and doesn't stand out. Even if you notice Romero, few would recognize the renowned director without his trademark spectacles. Seriously, he looks like a different person without them. Cameos are usually inserted in goofy or self-aware horrors, so it was refreshing to see George A. Romero pop up in a dead serious crime thriller. Number 4. Hiding in plain sight, Alien. The Xenomorph is such a defining movie monster. It's easy to forget nobody knew what it looked like when Alien hit theaters. More importantly, nobody could begin to guess thanks to the Starbeast's unique design. As a result, seeing the fully grown Xeno for the first time was a truly soul-stirring moment. However, the adult Xenomorph actually appears earlier than it seems. While Brett is looking for Ripley's cat, he enters the supply room where he is butchered by the Xenomorph. In typical horror tradition, the monster seems to magically appear behind Brett, almost like it teleported into the room. However, the Xenomorph can be seen the instant Brett enters the area. As he gazes towards the ceiling, the acid-blooded critter can be spotted clutching onto the dangling machinery. But due to its metallic endoskeleton and chain-like tail, it blends into the metalwork perfectly. Also, it's highly unlikely first-time viewers saw the Xenomorph here since they assumed the extraterrestrial would have a more conventional appearance. Sadly, Brett can't be blamed for failing to detect the Xenomorph, since pretty much everybody watching Alien for the first time made the same mistake. Number 3. Tantalus, the menu. This criminally underrated satire opens with Margot being invited to an exclusive restaurant owned by a reclusive chef, Slowick. Over time, Slowick makes it clear how each customer is responsible for him losing his passion for cooking. When Margot realizes her host intends to kill everyone, she does everything she can to change his mind. While in Slowick's house, Margot spots a newspaper article that shows the demented chef as a young man working at a Greasy Spoon diner. One crucial detail that virtually everyone missed is the name of this diner, Tantalus. Even if viewers clocked this name, they may be oblivious to its significance. In Greek mythology, Tantalus was a son of Zeus who invited the gods to his home for dinner. Though the deities assumed the occasion would be festive, they soon realized Tantalus had an ulterior motive. When they discovered Tantalus intended to feed them his own son, they cursed him to sit in a shallow pool above a tree, unable to reach the branch's fruit or drink from the water below. Despite being surrounded by food and drink, Tantalus quickly realized he could never be fulfilled by either. This newspaper article is only on screen for a few seconds, but it quickly establishes Slowick is basically a modern-day Tantalus. Number 2. The Devil, Longlegs. Osgood Perkins' detective drama revolves around Lee Harker, an FBI agent who's tasked with hunting down a murderous occultist called Dale Coble, aka Longlegs. Though Coble says he works directly for the devil, it's safe to assume his bold claim is a delusion. But during the third act, Coble proves he can conjure black magic, indicating he truly is a servant of Satan. With the benefit of hindsight, the federal agent should have deduced it sooner, since she was mere inches away from the goat-headed satyr on many occasions. Although the devil reveals himself repeatedly, it's usually in a blink-and-you'll-miss-it sense, so his appearance rarely registers. However, there are a few moments where the devil is pretty noticeable. While Coble is reading in his basement, he looks down the room where the horned entity appears beside the bookcase. While Agent Carter closes the front door after Lee enters the house, a shadowy figure can be seen on the glass's reflection. When Harker hears a gunshot outside during the climax, the devil can be seen in the window behind her. The devil is in the center of the shot here, so this is probably the best opportunity to see him. Number 1. Minnie keeps showing up. Late Night with the Devil. The 2024 pseudo-documentary centers around TV presenter Jack Delroy, who hosts a late-night talk show called Night Owls. Though Jack is desperate for ratings, he puts the show on hiatus when his wife Minnie dies from cancer. When Jack returns to the show, he interviews a possessed girl, hoping the spectacle will boost his numbers. However, the episode goes horribly awry, with the demonic force killing several people. Not only that, the demon reveals Jack made a pact with the devil to boost his career at the expense of his wife's soul. This revelation becomes clear when Jack watches the recorded playback and witnesses Minnie's spirit standing behind him during one frame. As shocking as this moment is, it's not the first time Minnie showed up. In fact, it's not even the second, third, or fourth time. While Jack is leaning on the camera at the end of the prologue, Minnie can be seen on the monitor standing by his side. She can also be observed other times in a mirror, on a static screen, in the possessed girl's hair, and on a pocket watch. Despite popping up nearly a dozen times, it's easy to miss Minnie's secret appearances, since you'll be focusing on something else at the time.